Toyota Camry is perhaps the most stereotypical uncle car. It's safe, unassuming, and if we're being honest, usually a little boring to drive too. It's a car that's made only to serve its purpose, and that's perhaps one of the reasons why even our Prime Minister, Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim, chose it as one of his official cars.
As a 20-something-year-old, I think the Camry will never be your first or even perhaps your first 10 car choices. But with the latest generation model and especially this facelift, I think the tide might just be changing a little bit. The main design change on this facelift is actually at the front, particularly this new bumper. And although it still looks fairly similar to the pre-facelift model, this one here at the central air intake now gets a more clearly defined edges, which in effect sort of takes away the white silly green look that the pre-facelift model had. The bulge underneath the Toyota logo here has also been cleaned up, and when you pair it to the new reworked bumpers, the new two-tone 18-inch alloy wheels, as well as the slightly darkened taillights, well, the car just ends up looking really sharp, and if I might add, tastefully sporty too, without being overdone. But if you're buying it in this platinum white pearl colour, well, just make sure that you wash it a little bit more often.
You'll be surprised how much these small little changes can really do to the overall feel of the car, and that's still true even for the interior too.
For many people, when you mention Camry, the first thing that comes to mind is their weird preference for the light beige coloured leather seats, as well as the super gaudy looking glossy wooden trims all over the dashboard and even on the steering wheel as well. Well, take a look around here and you'll notice there's none of those here anymore. And on this new facelift model, there's even this black coloured fibre weave looking trim that really helps gel together the entire youthful look of the cabin. The screen here is also slightly larger at 9 inches across. And in order to fit the larger size, it's actually been moved up a bit, swapping places with the center air vents to give it a sort of floating look that's really quite popular these days, especially with the other premium German models. For the younger people like myself, well, you'll be happy to know that it's also packed full of tech as well, including Apple CarPlay and Android Auto connectivity, a head-up display, 9-speaker JBL sound system, as well as a wireless charging pad that can actually be pushed away to reveal a hidden compartment down here. I think that's really smart.
The safety tech on this new Camry has also received a sizable update as well, with the Toyota Safety Sense Advanced Driver Assistance Suite basically lifted directly from the new Lexus ES250, now being upgraded to version 2.5. That means the autonomous emergency braking function now gets cyclist and nighttime pedestrian detection, while the adaptive cruise control can also now slow down for corners or even speed up when you need to overtake. Together with the new lane centering assist, the updated safety kit gives the Camry a level 2 semi-autonomous driving capability.
But if there's one thing to point out though, is that the video quality of the new surround view monitor is... well, I mean, just take a look for yourself. For 200 grand, I think you can do a lot better than this Toyota.
Even though the Camry is now more youthful than ever before, it still does what a Camry does best.
Or maybe even better than before. The seats are still as soft as you remember them to be, but unlike the older Camrys, there's actually a hint of proper side bolster support now. And we haven't even gotten to the rear seats yet. The magic at the back here lies within the center armrest. Click on the power button and you'll be greeted very gently by a new rear seats control panel. It lets you control not just the audio system, but also the new power reclining rear seats, temperature for the 3-zone climate control system, and even the rear sunshades. Like a boss? Well, in this car, yes, truly. When you're seated at the back here, and especially if you don't look past these front seats, it's really not out of the question to think that you're actually seated in a Lexus instead of a Toyota Camry. But with all that being said though, I really just wish that Toyota actually gave us an extra storage bin underneath here, because for now it just feels like a load of wasted space.
If you think that the updates on this facelift aren't all that obvious, well, you aren't wrong. But that's because they've kept the most important updates underneath the sheet metal.
That's right, UMW Toyota has finally given us the new 2.5-litre dynamic force engine underneath the bonnet in front of me here. And we've been waiting for this literally for years. Well, I think it was definitely worth the wait.
The new engine, which is also found on the Lexus ES250, now makes 209 horsepower and 253 Nm of torque, or 25 horsepower and 80 Nm more than before. And put simply, you can definitely feel the power gain while driving in almost any situation.
But what I was really impressed with was actually the new 8-speed direct shift automatic gearbox. Not only does it have a wider and more evenly spread range of ratios thanks to the 2 new gears, it also works so quickly that it almost feels sometimes like the car is reading your mind. Sure, the Camry doesn't have the same amount of torque as many of its other competitors out there, and it's also still naturally aspirated, which means it lacks the low-end punch that many of the turbocharged engines have. But the entire powertrain just works so well in harmony, and a light touch on the accelerator just immediately makes the gearbox drop a gear or two to make up for the lack of low-end grunt. And that's when you feel the gush of power just gently pushing you from the back, almost like a wave pushing on a surfboard. And the gear shifts are so seamless that sometimes it really feels like you're driving a CVT gearbox instead of the regular torque converter. And with all of that combined, the power delivery from the engine just feels so silky smooth, but at the same time, it still lets you pick up speed at a very fast pace. It still comes with these gear shift pedals for perhaps when you feel like acting like a little child behind the wheel. But for the past few days driving this car, I almost never once felt the need to touch it myself. Instead, I just let the car decide on what it wants to do, and I'll just sit back and enjoy the effortless and almost ethereal-like driving experience, especially on the highways.
With most of the cars these days coming with turbocharged or even hybrid powertrain, it actually feels really nice to drive a naturally aspirated, big-ish displacement engine once again. Sort of like a throwback to the good old times. But that's not all that the Camry has going for it.
Remember when the 8th generation Toyota Camry was first launched here back in 2019, and all of the media basically gushed about how well it handles? Well, the undercarriage here is essentially unchanged, so yes, it still handles very well. It's softly sprung, so it rides over the humps and road unevenness really well, almost like it's floating on a cloud, which I guess is what most Camry buyers are looking for. But despite that, it also doesn't bounce around, giving you the uneasy feeling as if the car is not quite confident to cruise at higher speeds. For the most part, the car feels incredibly planted onto the ground. And the way that it sits after a speed hump just shows you how well sorted out the suspensions really are. And to be honest, it even feels a little German. The innate softness of the suspension does mean that it sort of rolls around a little bit when it comes to the corners. I mean, you can't fight physics after all. But it's the way that it rolls. It's almost as if it's squatting down, preparing itself to be launched out of the corners. And when it comes to quick direction changes, there's also a sense of fluidity in the way the body moves from side to side. Even when driving this car up and down the tight, twisty back roads, it never once felt out of place, unbalanced, or even like it's toppling over. The Camry is almost like it's a well-trained ballet dancer. It's not a super light hot hatch. I mean, just by looking at it, you wouldn't even expect it to be anywhere close. But that doesn't mean it's not fun, because it actually really is. The Camry is like the adult who occasionally still likes to go out partying into the early hours of the morning. But when it needs to be, it can still suit up and present itself professionally, doing what it's asked to, day in day out without complaints.
Despite the praises, however, the Camry really isn't all sunshines and roses.
For a car that's priced at 200,000 ringgit, there are just some things in here that don't quite feel the way that it should. Take for example this cabin lighting panel up here. It feels so plasticky and cheap that it's almost as if like it's taken straight out of a Prodom Ivy. The screens here, yeah, they're big, but it doesn't have the same resolution or shiny graphics that you come to expect from a digital device in this day and age. I don't know what it is, but it seems to be a pretty common problem among the Toyota models and even on the Lexus too. Overall, the cabin ambience just lacks that little bit of sparkle to really bring it over the top, or at least make it feel as premium as the price tag suggests. Which I think is really quite a shame, because the rest of the car is pretty much at the finishing line already. A Camry is still a Camry. It's safe, it's comfortable, and in the long run, it's also probably going to be quite reliable too. But on this new facelift model, it's also so much more than that. It seems like in recent years, it's getting a lot more easier to say that Toyota cars are actually enjoyable to drive now. And this year is also no different. And when you add on all of the latest technologies, the safety equipment, the incredible looks, and also the luxury items, well, it's getting closer and closer to the mythical complete package car. And even for a younger guy like myself, well, I think it's also getting a little irresistible too. For more information on the new 2022 Toyota Camry, do log on to AutoBuzz.my. If you enjoyed the video, click the like button and share it with your friends. But if you didn't, well, leave a comment below to tell us why. Also, don't forget to click on the subscribe button and of course the bell icon beside it to get the notifications to all of our latest videos.